Chris Matthews. And as I mentioned this morning, tributes and condolences are pouring in following the death of former President Carter, who passed away at his home in Georgia yesterday at the age of 100. NBC's Lester Holt takes a look back at the life and legacy of the 39th President of the United States.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
He went from being Jimmy Who to winning the White House itself, then struggled with crises overseas and a troubled economy at home. A one-term president whose time as ex-president was the longest and among the most active in American history. James Earl Carter Jr., he always went by Jimmy, was born in small-town Plains, Georgia, growing up on a farm without electricity or indoor plumbing. He attended the U.S. Naval Academy, married Rosalind Smith, a friend of his sister's, eventually becoming governor of Georgia.
The time for racial discrimination is over.
A year later, he ran for the White House.
I'd like to announce that I am a candidate for president.
And won. A born-again Christian who promised voters, "I will never lie to you."
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
At his best, he scored historic achievements, leading successful peace talks between Egypt and Israel. But closer to home, when the economy tanked, so did Carter's popularity. He seemed to blame Americans themselves.
The erosion of our confidence in the future.
And it got worse. In Iran, scores of Americans were taken hostage. And then came a grueling re-election battle.
I'll bring new hope to America.
Jimmy Carter lost in a landslide. Through it all, Carter was sustained by his faith.
You were faced with some huge crises as president. Did you drop down to your knees and pray?
Often, yes, often. In fact, I prayed more per day, per hour, while I was president than any other 4 years in my life.
And his defeat marked the beginning of a remarkable post-presidency. He established the Carter Center, committed to advancing human rights and democracy. Carter built houses for the poor, and in 2002 was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. An extraordinary ex-president, proud of his years in the White House.
Kept the peace. We never went to war. We told the truth. Never lied to the American people, never misled the American people. So in general terms, I feel perfectly at ease with my term.
He brought discipline and devotion to everything he did, including his battle with cancer.
Everything's been a blessing for me, so I'm thankful and hopeful.
Despite the diagnosis, he continued building houses alongside Rosalind and marked their 75th wedding anniversary in 2021.
75 years. I can't believe.
Rosalind died 2 years later, marking the longest presidential marriage in history. In 2024, Carter marked another milestone, his 100th birthday, with an outpouring of gratitude for his life of service. He brought that devotion to everything he did for family and for country until the end.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for that. Chris Matthews, let's get your thoughts here on a remarkable life and legacy of Jimmy Carter, someone whose legacy will go well beyond his 4 years in office. Tell us some of your thoughts this morning as you reflect upon his life.
Well, it looks like 100's about the limit, isn't it? I mean, it really looks like that's as long as you can live, because he did everything right. He taught us that the American presidency is not a transaction where you get something for it. It's what you give to it. And clearly that's what he did. And I think about how hard it was for people talk about the post-presidency being more important. Well, that's one argument, I guess. But you know what the really truth was? How in the hell did this guy ever get elected president of the United States? Nobody knew who he was in 1974. Nobody. He wasn't on any poll. He didn't show up anywhere. He was a lame duck governor of a deep South state. He was not on the charts for anybody. And then he became, well, he won all the primaries, basically. And how did he do it? He In 1974, 2 years before he ran for president, he sent out letters to all the people that lost Democratic primaries. I got one in Philadelphia. I got one of those letters congratulating me for making the effort and inviting me to get involved, not just in Pennsylvania, but around the country. This is how he built his campaign. Then he began sleeping on people's couches. And as Ted Sorensen, who wrote speeches for Jack Kennedy, said, once somebody has slept on your couch, it's pretty hard to vote against him. He built it up gradually, piece by piece, the peanut grenade parade, and he put it all together and managed to knock off everybody in Iowa and then in New Hampshire and Pennsylvania, and he beat George Wallace and all the rest of them. It was a hell of a campaign, piece by piece. And later on in the presidency, when I was a speechwriter for him, I learned what Jimmy Carter was about. He's a man who believes in doing it yourself. I delivered a speech to him at 4 o'clock in the morning. The coffee was perking. He was up already like a farmer, which he was for years, a farmer, and he was already working away on his decision memoranda. He loved when he could get an 80-point questionnaire from Stu Eisenstadt, his great domestic advisor. He wanted all the facts and figures. He wanted to be all the decisions himself. And that was his undoing. He believed in doing everything piece by piece like an engineer, like Herbert Hoover, unfortunately, instead of the grand sweep of things. I think Ronald Reagan, if he had had the hostages grabbed in his world, he would have declared war and said, that's an act of war. That's an act of war, you Iranians. I want those people back by 24 hours or we're going to war with you guys. Carter saw it as like sort of a criminal act with a bunch of kids, college students, grabbing our people, our diplomats. I think he was perhaps too granular. That's probably was his undoing.
So, Michael Beschloss, how will in your estimation, how will the long lens of history remember former President Carter? What are some things that you feel Americans should be considering this morning?
I think, a few of them would be, Jonathan, how he changed this political culture. For instance, for most of American history, there is no way that Jimmy Carter would have been nominated by his party for President of the United States. Before the rules were changed in around 1970 to make primaries more important and to reduce the influence of elected officials and party bosses. If those party bosses and elected officials had made the choice in 1976, it would not have been Jimmy Carter, a one-term governor of Georgia, whom most people did not know in that party. Instead, it would have been someone like Hubert Humphrey, the former vice president and senator from Minnesota. So he was an emblem of the opening of the door. If you're looking at Donald Trump and the way that Donald Trump was able to get nominated in 2016, he was able to do that as part of a popular groundswell. If the 2016 election and nomination had been just a poll of party leaders, there's no way that Donald Trump would have been nominated. Another big change at the time among many was Carter's religion. This is probably the most deeply religious candidate for president of modern times. And that has been true elsewhere in American history. It turns out, for instance, that Harry Truman was a very religious man, but he concealed it because he thought that that would be, deterring to people, that they would be put off by it. In Carter's case, he said, you may not know me, but one thing you should know about me is, and these are the words he used, my deep Christian faith. And that was shorthand for a lot of people, even who were not Christian, for the fact that this was a person of strong character who could be relied on as a president of the United States, even though, as Chris Matthews said, very few people knew very much about it.
So President Biden issued public remarks yesterday on the life of President Carter. Biden last saw Carter in November 2023 at Rosalynn Carter's funeral, where he said he took the time to tell the former president how much he loved him, while also agreeing to deliver a eulogy at his funeral. Let's take a listen to some of what President Biden had to say yesterday.
Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds. Just look at his life's work. He worked to eradicate disease, not just at home, but around the world. He forged peace, advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing and homeless for the homeless with his own hands. And his compassion and moral clarity lifted people up and changed lives and saved lives all over the globe. I'll always cherish having seen Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter together. Theirs was a love affair of the ages. While we'll miss them both dearly, I do take some solace, and the kids were saying it, that they're united once again. We're going to remain forever in our hearts, but they're together again.
So, Reverend Al, let's get your thoughts here as to what President Carter meant to the struggle of civil rights, but also to the Democratic Party, where he was, at the time, a revolutionary figure coming out of nowhere, coming out of the Deep South, what he means to the American story.
In order to understand what he meant, you have to understand the context. In 1972, the Democratic Party nominee was George McGovern and was considered very liberal. I remember I was 17 years old at the time. I was Shirley Chisholm's youth director. She ran in those primaries. Then right after the 72 race, where Nixon won overwhelmingly by a landslide, we have Watergate. And the whole country is embarrassed, humiliated. We're in the middle of trying to deal with the war in Vietnam. Here comes this moral, soft-spoken man who had integrity and character that came out of nowhere and started winning primaries and won. He was born in and raised in the Deep South. His parents had been segregationists. He himself had an evolving relationship with the black community. He became very good friends with Martin Luther King Sr. He didn't know Dr. King Jr. Martin Luther King III, and I talk about it often. Mrs. King, Coretta Scott King, and him became close. I've talked to her about him. And here was a man from the deep South talking about civil rights and human rights and standing up for what was right and stabilizing the country and returning a moral character to the White House. So you have to understand the Democratic Party being traumatized with the McGovern loss. Then we run into Watergate. Then we're still dealing with war. And here comes a man that was a man of faith. In the times that I met with him and talked to him, I'll never forget that at the 50th anniversary of the '63 March on Washington, 2013, I got in a conversation with President Clinton and President Carter. And at the end of the conversation, Carter said to me, Al, I see you out there with your activism. You're still preaching, right? I said, oh, I'm at a church every Sunday. I don't pastor a church. I, took Reverend Jesse Jackson's tradition, not pastoring, but moving around. In fact, Dr. King co-pastored. I said, but I'm in church every Sunday preaching, and I'm as studious as the Bible as I always was. He said, don't forget your faith. Don't ever leave your ministry. Let your civil rights work be your ministry. This guy lived what he talked. He practiced what he preached.
Yeah, beautiful words there. So, Chris, in your latest op-ed for the Washington Post has the headline, Jimmy Carter had an outsider edge. You wrote in part this: at the age of 28, I ran and lost a Democratic primary for Congress. It was not, however, for naught. That wild campaign against Philadelphia's old political machine won me an unlikely ally. The news came in a letter urging that I stay actively involved in Democratic politics. More seductive still, it contained an out-and-out request for my future help in building the party. And it was signed Jimmy Carter. So, Chris, talk to us a little more about that moment in your life, how Jimmy Carter, offered his assistance, and just what a revolutionary figure he was, including after his presidency, where he, I'd argue, has done more than anyone else who's ever held the office.
Well, it started young, to follow up on what Reverend Al said so well. He was brought up among all African-American kids. All his friends were African-American. He was the only white kid in the crowd, if you will. They would fish together, they'd play games together, they'd build toys together. They were rural kids, no running water, no electricity. I mean, the only outside influence Jimmy Carter had from the real world, the larger world, was that he would go to sleep in the evening, have an alarm set for 8 o'clock so he could get up and listen to Glenn Miller from the 1940s. That's what he remembered as his outside influence. But the rest of it was rural, it was black, it was the people of the country. And later on, as you say, what he did with his post-presidency was go back to Plains, basically, back to Atlanta, and build this huge effort to try to bring cures to diseases most Americans are lucky to have never heard of, like guinea worm in Africa. And he would go over these places that we'll probably never visit and help people improve their lives. So I think he was a rural guy. He told me once, I never really liked the big city. I said, why did you end up in New York like the Clintons? That's what everybody does. You know, Douglas MacArthur, all the big shots end up in New York. And he said, I don't feel too comfortable in New York. I don't feel comfortable with the big shots of the Democratic Party like Averell Harriman in the old days. He was not a big shot. And I would say that's the best tribute we can give to this former president. He was not a big shot. He did not see the American presidency as a transaction where you get something from it. You give a little, but you get a lot more from it. He never looked at it that way. He saw it as giving. And there he is with this Habitat for Humanity. I saw him down in Tijuana, Mexico. It was nice weather down there, I must say. We all slept out on the ground. But he was out there, and Rosalynn was out there with their hauling 2x4s around. And Rosalynn had a nail apron on. They were, look at them, look at these people. This is not a PR stunt, a photo op. They're building houses that really people lived in. And so I think he had a lot of that rural attitude that he never lost. It's no surprise that he ended up dying and living in Plains.
Yeah, certainly Habitat for Humanity. A wonderful organization, one that he spent much of his life helping. We'll have the CEO of that group join us a little later here on Morning Joe. And as we just showed you, President Joe Biden mourned the death of former President Carter during public remarks he gave last night from St. Croix, where he is spending his final New Year's as president. And joining us now live from the U.S. Virgin Islands is NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Mike, good to see you this morning. Tell us more about what President Biden had to say yesterday, the relationship between the two men, and what we know of how the nation will mourn former President Carter in the week ahead.
Well, Jonathan, we often talk about that exclusive President's Club, and you think about it, there may not be two members of that club who have the length and depth of relationship that these two men, President Carter and President Biden, have had, one that began in 1976 in Carter's presidential campaign and one that now ends in the closing weeks of Biden's presidency. Biden has often reflected about what attracted him to become the first lawmaker outside the state of Georgia in 1976 to endorse Carter's campaign for the presidency. He said he saw him as a transitional figure in the Democratic Party, a Southern progressive on civil rights, somebody who he shared an outlook with on civil rights and on environmental issues, but also somebody who, coming out of Watergate, had the necessary character and honesty to lead the country. This is somebody who Biden also shares many parallels in terms of their own presidencies, their one-term presidencies, efforts to help Israel make peace with its neighbors, obviously efforts to secure a hostage deal, the diversity within their administrations, a top priority, but also ultimately the fact that the economic struggles of this country proved in many ways their respective political undoings. Now, like any relationship, there were some hiccups and some conflicts. Biden wrote when he was running in 2008 for president about the ways in which Carter had stumbled in his race, that because he ran against the Democratic establishment in 76, he had a hard time making friends in Washington, and in many ways, the slights of that campaign carried into his presidency. Biden wrote that even he, as somebody who had a close relationship with Carter, found it difficult to build relationships and work with him in the White House. But you heard the president last night in those remarks, really just nothing but respect and love. Those remarks at times scripted, but very often unscripted, reflecting, I think, this moment in time as Biden is reflecting on the legacy of one man while also beginning to think about his own legacy. I want you to take a listen to this interesting exchange in which the president took some questions and talking about Carter as an ex-president.
President, as you think about your post-presidency, is there anything about Jimmy Carter's time after leaving office that inspired you for the years ahead?
Yeah, never give up hope. Never give up hope. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. So much negativism out there. I know you're tired of hearing me say it over the last 4 years. But folks, there's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing beyond our capacity. If we do it together, and I mean it. I mean it. And he believed it.
President Biden, of course, Jonathan, ordering a state funeral to be held in Washington for President Carter, also declaring January 9th to be a national day of mourning. This is in the final 3 weeks of Biden's presidency, where one of his final acts now is being the eulogizer in chief, a role that he's played so often in the past.
Well said there. NBC's Mike Memley live in St. Croix. Mike, thank you so much. So Michael Beschloss, Mike Memley mentioned that exclusive club of former presidents. And even in his brief statement about Jimmy Carter, Donald Trump made the same reference, that he and Carter shared that. Talk to us, though, about what you think we'll hear from President Biden in the week ahead, putting President Carter's legacy in the context of not just the story of the presidency, but the story of the nation.
I think what he will say is that Jimmy Carter restored the nation. You know, one of the nicest things, John, is that after Carter was inaugurated in 1977, and I can recite the words by heart, the first thing he said was, "For myself and our nation, I would like to thank my predecessor," there he is on the screen, Gerald Ford, "for all he has done to heal our land." This was after this ferocious campaign between the two of them. And this was after, just as others have said, the Vietnam War and Watergate. Carter seemed a healing figure. But the other thing is the personal lesson, Jonathan. You know how many electoral votes Jimmy Carter got against Ronald Reagan in 1980? I know that Chris remembers this, sadly. He got 49 electoral votes after winning the presidency 4 years earlier. I used to talk to Carter about what that was like. He said, people would not return my calls, a former president. Yet, he had the strength of character and the imagination to say, there are things that an ex-president can now do that we've never seen before in American history, not just play golf or raise money for charitable organizations, worthy as they may be, built the Carter Center, worked for democracy around the world, eradicate disease, be a tower of moral principle. Didn't always get it right, as he hadn't been when he was president. But as far as, you know, what we should say to young people, I mean, you've got sons, John. You know, what should you say to your sons about what they should know one day about Jimmy Carter? This is a person who tried every day of his life to do right, sometimes did not, but in the end was the kind of person that we can hold up to our children.
Yes, I think agree with that. And presidential historian Michael Beschloss, thank you so much for your insight and perspective this morning. And Chris Matthews, as we close this block, let's give our final thought to you.
Well, you know, one of the things he said when he got the word from his pollster, Pat Caddell, on Air Force One, and I was there, he said, don't tell Rosalynn. And so we arrived down there in Plains, Georgia, and I remember looking up at the train depot where he had announced his victory 4 years before, and he was in there alone with her. And I averted my glance. I did not want to look at it because he was telling his wife that after all their efforts and all the struggles of the months and years in holding on to the presidency, that he had lost. In fact, they were going to lose by 10 points. That was very personal with him, that he protected his wife. He wanted to make sure it didn't hurt her too much. I remember when the plane landed, the Air Force, or Marine One landed in Plains, Georgia, the dancers on the ground, one of that great old Secret Service nicknames for her was dancers on the ground. And I said, oh my God, he's got to tell her. And he did, and faced up to it. They both faced up to it and moved on to quite a life that most people would not have seen. As somebody said, F. Scott Fitzgerald said, there's no second acts in American life. Well, this is one of the great second acts ever.
Chris Matthews, thank you so much for sharing your memories of President Carter this morning. We really appreciate it. Next up here on Morning Joe, we'll get the latest from Capitol Hill as House Speaker Mike Johnson fights to keep his leadership post with a pivotal vote later this week. Plus, MSNBC's Steve Kornacki is taking a look at what's next for American politics and Trump 2.0 in the upcoming year of 2025. We'll be right back with that.
Messes happen every day in every way, but who wants to drag out that bulky vacuum? Hey folks, Joe Fowler here with my favorite cleaning partner, The Duck, a super compact back with ultra-powerful suction. The compact design can reach the tightest places, making it quick and easy to clean up any mess. Just duck it up. Store it in any drawer, where it's always at your fingertips. You can even store it in your glove box for the ultimate car bag. I promise the Duck will change the way you clean.
Get the Horsepower Duck handbag for just $39.99. Order right now and we'll upgrade you to the Duck Pro package. A $30 value, yours free. You get the bendable tube, the crevice nozzle, and the soft brush nozzle, but supplies are limited, so there's a strict limit of 3 ducks per order. This may be your last chance to get yours at this low price, so don't delay. Duck it up today.
Call 1-800-237-1254 or visit duckback.com. So call 1-800-237-1254 or visit duckback.com now.
Do you have an ugly, outdated, maybe even unsafe bath or shower? You could remodel it the hard way. Or you could do it the easy way by calling Jacuzzi and get the beautiful bathroom of your dreams installed in just one day. That's right, it doesn't take weeks or months, just one day, and you won't need to break anything. Not even the bank. Right now, we're waiving all installation costs, plus offering 0 interest and 0 payments for up to 1 year. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel makes it simple. Our local design consultants come right to you with exclusive, genuine jacuzzi features and designs to help you create the custom bathroom of your dreams. That's easy to clean and even easier to love. For over 70 years, Jacuzzi has been the most trusted name in water, and everything we install is backed with the superior craftsmanship and the peace of mind of a lifetime warranty.
My overall experience with Jacuzzi has been wonderful. Everything was customized to the way I wanted it for the price that I wanted to pay.
It was amazing how they fixed that bathroom in a day.
I've had a great experience from start to finish.
And at Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, we don't just cover up your old bath, we remove it right down to the studs and build a truly new customized bath or shower from the ground up. Let us convert your old, outdated bath into a stunning, easy entry shower with features like grab bars and a custom seat so you can enjoy enhanced safety in style. And best of all, you can have it all installed in just one day. So what are you waiting for? Put down that hammer and pick up the phone. You deserve the luxury of a customized space that makes you feel great. So choose the smart way and call Jacuzzi Bath Remodel today.
Don't wait. Call or go online now to jacuzzibathremodel.com for a limited time offer. We are waiving all installation costs, and there's no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-990-6849. That's 800-990-6849. Call now.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Cunol Turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Why Cunol? It has superior absorption compared to regular turmeric. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Qualify for treatment at orhealth.com.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Ro offers access to prescription ED treatments uniquely designed to suit your needs. 100% online and always discreet. Connect with a provider to explore your options at ro.co/wow.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
Welcome back to Morning Joe. You can
maximum either. Plus, you can see any dentist you want. Stop fearing the big bill. Start saving at the dentist. Call now or go to sendinfokit.com.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
Hi, Grandma. I played baseball today.
Oh, that's great.
What position did you play?
First base.
That's what Grandpa used to play. When our hearing wouldn't allow us to use a regular phone, it made us feel isolated.
It became difficult to communicate with our friends and family.
Clear Captions was an easy solution for us.
Clear Captions provides captions on a phone like captioning on your TV, so you can see what the caller is saying live as they say it.
Making it easy to understand and respond immediately.
There is no insurance or Medicare required. Clear Captions service is provided at no cost to you through a federally funded program. We deliver, install, and train you on how to use your phone, all at no cost to you.
Give your loved ones the independence and connection they deserve.
Call now to see if you qualify to get a Clear Captions phone at no cost to you.
Call 1-800-714-2088. That's 1-800-714-2088.
Oh, my keys.
Well, now that's a pickle. Would you like me to contact your son, Mike, or your daughter, Jenny? Jenny it is. I got you.
With Medical Guardian's 24/7 support, I get to live my life without limits. From medical emergencies to an uneasy feeling, Medical Guardian has me covered.
Just a power outage. I got you.
So I can live my life the way I always have, on my terms. Thanks, Medical Guardian.
5'9" man not included.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Qualify for treatment at orhealth.com.
Stay informed on the biggest issues of the day. MSNBC has you covered wherever you are. Watch, read, and listen. For the in-depth coverage and analysis you need, stay with MSNBC.
Welcome back. An all-out feud has erupted within President-elect Trump's MAGA base over visas for skilled immigrant workers. Trump is apparently now expressing some support for the H-1B visa program after he had criticized it in the past. This comes after Trump allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy expressed their support for the program last week, arguing that high-skilled foreign workers are essential for the U.S. tech industry. That had many in MAGA world furious, claiming the pair were contradicting Trump's immigration policies and his America First philosophy for their own personal benefit. And joining us now to talk about this is MSNBC contributor and author of the book, How the Right Lost Its Mind, Charlie Sykes, and contributing columnist for The Hill, Matt Lewis. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. And if people weren't paying attention over the holidays last couple of days, this story exploded on the right and is going to have real ramifications going forward. And Matt, in your latest opinion piece, you asked the question, can Trump hold his coalition together? You write in part this. Today, it's MAGA that finds itself as the big tent coalition full of internal contradictions. The question is, how long can it last? Holding this coalition together will be one of Trump's greatest challenges in his second term. It's a happy dilemma, but also a test of political skill. Cracks are already showing. You go on to write, a catch-22 of politics is the fact that once you start governing and making decisions, you're almost guaranteed to alienate some of the people who put you in office in the first place. It requires finesse to manage, and finesse isn't exactly Trump's strong suit. But will the coalition's contradictions ultimately tear it apart? Trump's ability to navigate these challenges will define his second presidency. By this time next year, we'll likely know the answer. And Matt, talk to us more about, first of all, this schism on immigration that happened here. Fill viewers in as to what exactly is going on and what you think it does mean for this fragile Trump coalition.
Right. Well, so there is this schism, and you've got sort of billionaire tech bros like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy who want to be able to have highly skilled immigrants, obviously, who are going to help work for them or work in the tech industry. And they argue that that would be good for America. for innovation, for us to stay competitive around the world. But then you have folks who have been tilling these fields for a long time, people like Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Laura Loomer, who say, look, hey, last time we elected Donald Trump, we were promised he was going to do something on immigration. He did some stuff, but we had all of these establishment Republicans in our way, these kind of normie, Rex Tillerson, Reince Priebus, those types around, stopping us from really having a radical agenda, doing mass deportations, building the wall, all of that stuff. This time around, they think they're finally going to get to the promised land. And here comes Elon Musk, right? This billionaire owns X, who obviously has Donald Trump's ear. But I think this is a microcosm of a larger problem that Donald Trump has, which is that there is really no coherent MAGA philosophy. And there are a ton of contradictions. Like, is this the party of McDonald's, or is this the party of crunchy RFK yoga moms? Is this the party of values voters, or is this the party of Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump, right? So there's a lot of these problems, and we've had this before. FDR had a big coalition full of a lot of people who you couldn't have put them in a room together, but he had a big coalition, right? Donald Trump has 1 or 2 votes in the House to do anything. And so this is going to take a lot of skill. I don't necessarily think it's the end of the Trump presidency, but man, is it going to be a challenge.
I mean, Steve Bannon called Elon Musk a child on Elon Musk's own social media platform over the weekend. That's where things are right now on the MAGA right. And Charlie, in your latest post on Substack, you wrote in part this: it seems pretentious and overblown to call it a MAGA civil war, but the oligarch versus nativist furor that broke out over the last week over immigration, race, and visas was real, and it was spectacular. The angry skirmish exposed a fundamental divide over a core issue for MAGA, and it's likely a preview of coming attractions. But the fight was also a reminder that irony is good and truly dead. After spending hundreds of millions of dollars supporting a candidate who lied about immigrants eating cats and dogs, the neo-MAGA tech bros seem genuinely shocked to discover that the fear and loathing extends to their immigrants. And Charlie, talk to us more about this. There was such a sense of anger and outrage and betrayal, let's say, on the far right, particularly some very loud, influential voices on the far right who couldn't believe that Ramaswamy and Musk were taking this stance. Ramaswamy kicking this off with a lengthy post on Christmas Day. Trump tried to stay out of it for a couple days, it seems, and then he gave an interview to the New York Post in which he offered at least some soft support to where Musk is, hurting his base. What do you make of what's to come next?
Well, I mean, look, on one level, there's a power struggle going on inside of MAGA, but on another level, this is a substantive dispute, which is inevitable in a populist movement that is now dominated by billionaire tech bro elitists, and that's going to show up in a lot of issues. Look, a lot of the MAGA base has been motivated by the fear of immigrants and resentment against immigrants, foreigners, taking jobs that they think that Americans should have. And here comes Elon Musk and saying that, yeah, there are not enough Americans. Americans are, and he endorsed the word retarded, are just not smart enough or not skilled enough to take all these high-tech jobs. We need to import foreigners like me. Well, clearly, that's going to cause tension in MAGA. This is a campaign that was based upon fear of foreigners coming in and taking your communities, your jobs, your women, all of those things. And so these latecomers, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, really have very different value systems. I think they have different agendas than the MAGA base. So this is going to play out over a long period of time. Now, right now, and to no one's surprise, Donald Trump is siding with, the billionaire tech bros, but the base is not going to change its position on immigration. And sometimes, ideas have consequences, but so does racial demagoguery. And I think what was really extraordinary was watching how shocked Elon Musk and some of his buddies were to find out that many of their new MAGA allies are in fact pretty racist when it comes to Indian immigrants. And it seemed like they were shocked, like, wait, we were supposed to be afraid of those immigrants. Now you're coming for our immigrants? We didn't mean that.
Yeah, and this also is far from the only tension point on the right now, because this Friday, House lawmakers will vote on whether or not to re-elect Mike Johnson as House Speaker. Following last week's government funding bill, which passed the House with more Democratic than Republican votes, Speaker Johnson's candidacy is very much in peril. Already, Johnson has publicly lost the support of one Republican congressman, with multiple others saying they are unsure if they will back the Speaker. And if, as expected, all 215 Democrats oppose him, Johnson can only afford one more Republican defection. So, Matt Lewis, let's get your thoughts on this. Trump has also seemed pretty content to let Johnson twist in the wind. We know he was unhappy with the CR that eventually was passed because it didn't address the debt ceiling. He talked about that again on Truth Social last night. Though Trump has not publicly called for Johnson to be ousted, there are all kinds of reporting. I've heard this, too, from Mar-a-Lago, where he is deeply unhappy with the Speaker.
Yeah, well, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be crazy. Look, if I had to bet, I think Johnson probably survives this time. Remember last time, Matt Gaetz was really gunning for, Kevin McCarthy. So he had an agenda, a personal motive to take down McCarthy. I don't think that exists right now against the current Speaker, Mike Johnson. But he is in a very vulnerable position. Nobody wants the job. I don't think anybody else can get the votes. That's probably why Johnson maybe survives this one. But I will say this, as opposed to the visa debate and the visa schism we were just talking about, I think the real problem Republicans are going to have does have to do with Mike Johnson. And it's going to have to do next year when it comes time to fund the government or raise the debt ceiling. Because with the H-1B visa controversy, you could possibly elide that, right? You could tell Elon what he wants to hear. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller could limit the number of visas, or you could make some changes on the margins and avoid directly confronting that issue, at least for a while. When it comes to whether or not you raise the debt limit, that is a very public thing. And so I don't think there's any way to avoid that controversy, which pits, again, another civil war, a different one. Republicans, fiscal conservatives like Representative Chip Roy, who want to cut the debt, want to cut the deficit, want to rein in the budget, and they want to keep the debt limit there as a reason to revisit.
Because they want certain regulatory changes, they want certain tax cuts, and they're telling themselves, well, Trump doesn't actually mean it, say, with the tariffs. Okay, so Ramaswamy and Musk are going to propose all kinds of draconian spending cuts, but, that's not really going to go anywhere. Well, at some point, you are going to have a conflict because the true believers know that they have a limited amount of time to get their agenda through. It's probably going to become relevant at some point that Donald Trump is a lame duck. And so the power struggle is going to be very, very real. And for the true believers, they think that they may have a 2-year window to get everything done. The transactionalists, I think, are going to be surprised to find out that they bought into something that is somewhat different than perhaps they expected.
MSNBC contributor Charlie Sykes, thank you. Matt Lewis, thank you as well. We really appreciate the conversation, gentlemen. Still ahead here on Morning Joe, we'll take a closer look at former President Jimmy Carter's life and legacy beyond the Oval Office. The head of Habitat for Humanity will join us to talk about Carter's tireless volunteer work. Morning Joe is coming right back.
Is your shower trying to tell you something? Is getting in and out of the bathtub becoming a safety concern? Are you worried about the cost of a bathroom remodel that could go on for weeks and weeks? Well, now you can have a gorgeous new bath or shower with a one-day jacuzzi bath remodel that's safer at a price you can afford.
It's incredible that they were able to do this in one day.
Oh my gosh. It is beautiful. Oh, you have to see it. It was amazing how they fixed that bathroom in a day. You know what I like also? It's easy to clean.
Jacuzzi has been making water feel great for more than 70 years, so you know it's a brand you can trust, and their products come with a lifetime warranty for a style you'll love for years to come.
I've had a great experience from start to finish. I wish I would have done this 5 years ago.
There has never been a better time to buy. One-day installation and start loving your new bath or shower right away.
Call or go online to jacuzzibathremodel.com. For a limited time, we're waiving installation costs on your new bath or shower. Plus, we're postponing payments for 1 full year. Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-994-5413. That's 800-994-5413. Call now.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Qualify for treatment at orhealth.com.
What if you could tackle your dog's itching, soft stools, and low energy? Millions of pet parents are raving about Dr. Marty Nature's Blend.
Such a huge difference in her health. More energy, more playful, no more pooping issues.
I'm Dr. Marty. I've been a veterinarian for more than 50 years. The dangerous ingredients added to many pet foods could be impacting your dog's lifespan. That's why I formulated Nature's Blend.
Now you can feed your dog wholesome cuts of real meat, vegetables, and fruit with no artificial preservatives or fillers. Try Dr. Marty risk-free. Go to drmartypets.com/TV.
It is an entire transformation. It's like we have a new home.
Real customers share their stories about Empire today.
It's just that above and beyond that Empire is known for. The crew was professional. They were courteous. They worked so fast. But the quality is amazing. Empire's products are top-notch. The carpeting and the flooring, it's phenomenal. I'm so happy we selected Empire.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20. Go to DealDash.com and see how much you can save.
We know the strength of America. We are strong. We can regain our unity. We can regain our confidence. We are the heirs of generations who survived threats much more powerful and awesome than those that challenge us now.
Former President Jimmy Carter has passed away at the age of 100. This morning, we are remembering his lasting impact both in and out of office. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Monday, December 30th. I'm Jonathan Lemire. Joe and Mika have the morning off. Thank you so much for joining us. And joining us for this conversation, we have the co-host of The Weekend on MSNBC, Symone Sanders Townsend, President Emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, and author, columnist, and political analyst, Jonathan Alter. He wrote the acclaimed 2021 biography of President Carter, titled His Very Best. And with us by phone is Rogers Chair in the American Presidency at Vanderbilt University, the historian, our friend Jon Meacham. We will get to all of our wonderful panel in just a moment, but we're going to start this morning with reflections on the remarkable life of the 39th President of the United States. Mika Brzezinski had a front row seat to the Carter White House and now brings us a deeper look into the late president's legacy.
He was the man from Plain,